che stanno sia in alto che in basso.
Capra, e buffone!
Hai vinto perché non ho partecipato io all'istria di fare uno strumento.
And now, out of the comic, we can create our own storyboard. As we reached Myanmar from its capital, we head north. Once arrived in the town of Tripitaka, we turn to the east, through the mountains to reach Inle Lake. Then again, our wheels pointing north up to Mandalay to conclude the journey after 1200 kilometers in the town of Bagan. We start from the Great Shwedagon Stupa located in the center of Yangon. Here is where a legend lies more than 100 meters tall and over 25 centuries old, featuring the usual relics of the Buddha inside, in this case depicted with 8 strands of hair. The large golden dome marking the start of our journey. The first 400 kilometers are devoid of any significant height differences. This initial stage is best used to find the right pace and presents a few luxuries to relax. Finding the right pace in this environment is key to grow the necessary confidence to properly explore the region. A few things immediately struck us in this amazing country. The first being the natural kindness, courtesy, and gratefulness of the people, and above all, the Burmese children who are perpetually happy and playful, who, whenever we stopped, filled us with smiles and greetings. The second is the incredible spirituality and religious devotion of these people that can be seen across the whole country. It is virtually impossible to find a place void of a temple, altar, or a simple Buddhist stupa. They can be found wherever, from street corners, small and large town squares, or even clinging to isolated cliffs in the middle of a forest. Unmistakable, however, are the golden domes that make them recognizable from afar, as well as the various representations of the Buddha alternating from dreamlike depictions to more allegorical forms. And the third thing? The heat. Intense, with a constant lingering humidity, nearing 80%, making the air ultimately asphyxiating and unbreathable. How they work with this type of climate remains a mystery. Only in the evening, once dusk rolls in, can we finally find some relief from the heat.
Avete troppi capelli in testa.
Troppi capelli in testa. Se vediamo qua se ci possono dare un indirizzo per fare uno scorcio. Questo qui c'è scorciare in inglese, ma dai, ma a destra lascia parlare per Sergio, non mi capisce, vedi come sta facendo adesso. Little 2 centimetri, così mi piace. Perfetto. Ok? Vediamo come daranno le lezioni in Sicilia stasera. Cribio! Ma hai detto 5 centimetri? Forse non l'ha capito bene, non so. Fantamme, vieni che bonzarti anche tu. Dai, beh, bonzati te adesso. Da domani, hai visto, sembriamo 2 bonzi. Beh, più che 2 bonzi sembrate. Non dirlo, perché siamo in fascia protetta, non lo dirò, che è chiaro il concetto.
Perfectly blended in with the local monks, except for Marco that is, who stubbornly preserved the mop on his head, we resume our journey northward. Aside from the inevitable inconvenience hampering our communication, we keep trying to communicate with the local people we meet along the way. Although it goes without saying, the real enjoyment stems from the children who frequently turn to us with questions which you obviously can understand. But we always try to respond back with gestures. Overall, a delightful country where even the animals seem to have a kind and loving soul. For us, simple days are when we're able to replenish all the liquids we've lost during the day's hottest hours. As for the local gastronomic delicacies, we use the opportunity to take in the delicious and extremely varied street food. Among most, only the grasshoppers were difficult to eat as the wings kept getting stuck in our teeth. At sunset of the fourth day, we finally arrived in Naypyidaw. The stages of pure transfer are now over. The most interesting part is thus the start. We must first cross the mountains pedaling on a road formed by an endless succession of ups and downs that cross valleys and forests. After 3 days, we finally reached the Inle Lake. We proceed through narrow roads, mostly dirt paths or roads in poor conditions where our well-sized tires do their job with ease. Although this area is not very inhabited and frequented, we did not find great difficulty in recovering water and food, alternating great moments of cycling with moments of leisure.
Ancora, vai, bagnati tutto.
Dimmi.
Una foto! Guarda che bello! Faccio una ripresa con l'elefante!
Ok, mettetevi in posa.
Ok, stiamo. Vieni qua, Armando, questa parte vai.
Ecco lì vicino che siete perfetti, un attimo,
Vieni bene? La foto, viene?
Sì, ok, fermi così, va bene.
Perfetto!
One more day, and the town of Nangshui appears on the banks of the river where just 5 kilometers further south flows Lake Inle. For us now, a day of rest devoted to tourism. We indeed embark on one of the numerous wooden pirogues that first cross the river and then the lake, carrying tourists around. On the lake, we meet a myriad of fishermen disguised by the characteristic wear wearing with the help of their feet. The western bank is characterized by a dense network of canals, tight and narrow at times, where houses on stilts rise together with small bridges that make these villages look like a sort of small Burmese Venice, and where the comings and goings of motor pirogues seem to be incessant. The huge pagoda of Alada Pak is the gathering point of the riparian inhabitants. One can see the impressive number of pirogues that have docked or looking for a pier to unload people on the gigantic temple esplanade. More than a sacred place, it looks like a crumb trail littered with restaurants, market stands, a real mixture of people, sounds, smells, and prayers. Everyone strictly barefoot on the esplanade. However, this remains a mystery to us as to how they find their shoes later on. An interminable series of traditional religious ceremonies with annexed processions are confused with the hectic activity of the square.
Cos'è?
È per la richiesta di capelli scritto.
Prendiamo due?
Our leisure day ends with the sunset. As tomorrow dawns, we once again jump on the trail leading upwards to the northernmost point of our journey, Mandalay. Along the way, we were invited to a wedding ceremony hosted at the bride's father's house in the usual traditional fashion, where all the villagers gathered together with relatives and friends. We received a warm and friendly welcome, combined with the offerings of food and tea that we could not refuse and gladly accepted. We continued the journey only after the ceremony, pedaling north. Before arriving in Mandalay, we stopped in the town of Amanpura, which was for a short time the capital of Burma. After crossing the Inle Lake with the use of a bridge called Bagan, we arrived in Amanpura, today no more than a little suburb of the nearby Mandalay. The bridge is fascinating. It was built in the mid-800s with the recovered wood from the former royal palace of Inle, and is equipped with 1,086 teak pillars that protrude from the water, some of which in bad shape and deteriorating have since been replaced with concrete pillars. This bridge is 1,200 meters long and is probably the oldest and longest bridge of its kind. The lake is shallow, a little more than 3 meters at its steepest point, but apparently sufficiently dense judging by at least the incessant activity of local fishermen. Here, for the first time in my life, I experienced a profession totally unknown to me: the shepherds of ducks. This, I swear, I have never seen, let alone imagined. Nowadays, although it is a tourist attraction, the bridge is still constantly being used to cross the lake, and is therefore created an open market servicing both tourists and locals. Since day one, we've noticed that the locals of Myanmar used to decorate their faces with a particular ochre pigment called tanaka. We discovered that it is produced by rubbing the bark of a particular tree on a polished stone. It smells good and also appears to help protect against the sun. Once purchased a jar and a volunteer expert is found, we complete our metamorphosis in perfect Burmese. Result? Very ethnic without a doubt. But Armando, mindful of the proverb, learns the art and follows by setting it aside, deciding that he could devote himself to the profession of a local esthetician. And so, outside a temple, he is committed to finding potential customers. And incredibly enough, he even has some success with the locals. Another small push on the pedals a few kilometers away, and we reach the northernmost point of the journey, the town of Mandalay, where we reach the incredible pagoda of Kuthodaw. This pagoda would not seem to differ much from the other similar ones in Burma, except for a peculiar feature. Inside the huge site, one can find the largest book in the world, a copy of Tripitaka, the sacred text of Buddhism. Each stupa placed in the enormous interior space contains a 1.5 meter slab written on both sides with the classic Burmese alphabet featuring rounded characters. This is a very special alphabet because it was initially conceived to write on bamboo leaves, where, if sharp characters were used, would break the leaves. There are 1,416 pages in all. From the top of the hill, the work is strikingly majestic. But the surprises in this area are not yet finished. A little further south of Mandalay, following a small road, you reach an area characterized by the presence of a series of stupas and pagodas. Sometimes hidden in the deep vegetation of the forest or positioned along the marshes, we could count dozens of them, some small and others noticeably larger. These we could not find in our handbooks seem to be a religious school where a large number of young students pray aloud outside the temple, on the steps of the stupas, or inside the pagoda itself, where one can hear the uninterrupted chanting of their prayers. Continuing down a pathway brushing past wide rice fields and banana trees, which I doubt is even accessible in the rainy season, we arrived at the monastery of Bagan with its 7-level spiral. The monastery, entirely decorated with inlaid wood, rests on 267 gigantic teak pylons, which appears to be fumigated to help protect the foundations from corrosion inhibited by the forest and humidity. How it's still standing after 500 years remains a mystery to me. A little further, following the rice fields, we found another monastery of which wasn't mentioned or indicated in the guide.
Fermo, sento il puzzo di trappola. Lascia fare a me queste cose, so che bisogna fare.
Io ho l'impressione che questa scena qua l'ho già vista in un film.
Come è finita la scena? Male, molto male.
Well, hopefully nobody knew about it, and I doubt Lonely Planet will be rewriting the chapter. Therefore, we continue moving along since we still have quite a road ahead, and still rather particularly hot.
Problemi? Non riservo. Io ho bisogno di fare rifornimento. Ok, rifornimento. Va bene.
Just over 200 kilometers from our final destination, and as we pedaled along towards the end of the journey, the words of Tiziano Terzani, of which I've read many years ago, came to my head. He said, "There are images of the world in which one feels proud of belonging to the human race. Bagan Adon is one of those." Founded in the 8th century after Christ, Bagan is located on the eastern bank of the Irrawaddy River. Today, the ruins of Bagan cover an area of almost 10 square kilometers and is one of the largest archaeological sites in the world. Most of its buildings were built between the years 1000 and 1200, when Bagan was the capital of the First Burmese Empire. We wandered for 2 days among the temples of the ancient Bagan, where there are hundreds of different Buddha statues seen in various materials and dimensions. The day before the departure, it seemed the people had decided to say goodbye by organizing a colorful local festival in the streets of a new local town, consisting of a long procession featuring elephant and horse-drawn carts and beautiful Burmese dancers. But before returning, there remains one more thing to do. We entrust, from the bank of the Irrawaddy River, our little colored lantern to the sky, expressing the desire to return someday. This is our modest way of thanking this beautiful country and its people. The time has finally come, and it's time to return to the comics, re-enter the pages of the books left in the kitchen in Milan.
Sì, pronto?
Ciao Sergio, sono Ralph, come...
Sì, grazie, tutto bene, tutto bene. Mi ero un attimo addormentato leggendo un fumetto.
Ah, caspita, a quest'ora.
Sì, vale, ero stanchissimo, mi sembra di aver pedalato 1000 chilometri, non capisco.
Avresti voglia di andare fuori a correre insieme?
Sì, dai, volentieri, dai, mi recupero un attimo, finisco il tè e ci vediamo giù.
Benissimo, a fra poco,
Ok,
ciao.
ciao.
Ciao.